Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Mila and today I'm going to sort of like psychoanalyze this movie that I've watched recently. It's called The Substance. A lot of people are talking about it, and when I was watching it, I was like, wow, this would be amazing to do like a, deconstruction, psycho deconstruction on my YouTube. Like, that would be a great movie, because this movie is not just about the beauty or whatever. This movie talks about a battle between the real self and the ideal self. Okay, so right now what you see here is the real self. The real self it's aging, it's, in this case, it's forgotten, it's very human, vulnerable. Once again, it's aging, right? Our real self is our authentic self, and sometimes, a lot of the times, people are not in acceptance with their true self. So see, our real self, it wants to be loved, it wants to be seen, but a lot of the times it's terrified of being real in a way. And so because being real, it means being rejected, and what we see in this movie is that she is being rejected. Okay, but I want to take a look closer at this scene where she speaks to that, because the producer, what it signifies, it actually signifies our society, because our society wants to see the ideal image. Our society does not want to see someone aging, someone not looking their best, someone failing, right? Our society wants to see the ideal. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the ideal, and then I'm going to go on to explaining about the society. So let's go onto the ideal now. Ideal self, guys, is obviously, right? It's constructed perfection. It's perfect. It's youth. It's young. It's energetic. It's the smartest, the most beautiful. It's adored. It's worthy, right? That's the ideal self. And each of us, right, including myself, we all have, the ideal, the real, and the ideal. Okay, and a lot of the times we strive, the stronger your ideal is, the less strong is your real. So because a lot of the times, especially what we see in celebrities are trying to hold on to that ideal, more surgery. Kylie Jenner, for instance, more surgery, more fillers, more bigger breasts, each time it gets bigger for some reason, right? Do you know what I mean? So that's the ideal. In this movie, this girl here, she represents the ideal. Okay, so the Demi Moore is the real, and this girl, it's the ideal self. Okay, and what we actually see the battle happening between the ideal and the real self, right? Because the real self no longer is no longer accepting, it's weak. Okay, guys, so what does society want and what society represents, right? What this guy, it represents our society. It needs more. See how it says, I know it's difficult to read, but he says people just love that, right? And he's talking about, youth, energy, beauty, right? I mean, it's just the way it is, right? And you can see, c'est la vie, people are just people. You got to give people what they want, keep the shareholders happy, and you can see that he's eating food and he's hungry, right? And that's the society. The society is hungry. Our society is hungry for the ideal image. And why? Why is our society hungry? Why do we all like to see beautiful pictures, right? We like to see big, butts, bigger, breasts, perfect body, perfect skin, right? Why do we all love to see that? Here is why. Because we carry a lot of anxiety. And for us to see someone else's ideal image, and I would like to talk about Kylie Jenner here a little bit, even though this is about this movie, but because it represents that when something is perfect, that means we identify with that. And so it kind of means for us that it's achievable. See, perfection removes the anxiety of, it's almost like existential anxiety. In a way, we can call it a collective defense mechanism against this type of anxiety. Because perfection symbolizes control, safety. It almost gives a feeling of having an order where the world is chaotic. So seeing perfect people, like for instance Kylie Jenner, it provides us a fantasy of mastery. It's sort of like when things can be controlled and shaped and polished. So perfection, it's a defense, it's a collective defense mechanism. Because when we look at these pictures, at these ideal pictures, we idealize them, right? But at the same time, we identify with these images. We think that if they can do it, then I can do it. And we look at them, we idealize them thinking, well, their life is perfect. Their life is calm. There's no chaos. There's no conflict. There's no uncertainty. There is only stability, right? So it gives this kind of feeling of control. It's a way to control the uncontrollable. Movie, right? Demi Moore, or the real self, is trying to control the way she looks, right? She's trying to look younger. So really what she's trying to control is aging, and aging cannot be controlled. It's completely out of our control, right? We can't control. It's not just the it's not just the aging. It's many other things that we cannot control in this life. And really it's the pain. It's the pain of the real self that we're trying to control. It's the pain that we are, not good enough. So we're trying to control that, narrative of we're not good enough. If I'm going to be perfect, I will be good enough and everything will be okay and certain. Because look, these days, in this society, right, there's a lot of powerlessness. Like there's a lot of things that are happening, right? A lot of people feel unseen, insecure. We all come with our traumas. Life can be very real, can be hectic, can be heavy, can be painful. And so we think that if we will create that ideal image, all of the pain can be avoided, but it cannot. It creates this striving for ideal and having the ideal and having that perfection. It's like an illusion of escaping from worthlessness. Because I feel worthless, if I become perfect, I will be worthy. I will be loved. I will be seen. I will be whatever, right? You'll be beautiful, then you will be loved. If you become successful, then you will no longer struggle anymore and you will be loved. If you can control everything, you will never face pain. So instead of feeling those, these painful feelings and being real and being raw with having raw feelings, it's difficult for us to experience that. So therefore, we will go into perfectionism. We will go and compare each other to other people in social media. We will try to become this ideal self, this perfection. How many people do you see on Instagram constantly putting loads and loads and loads of filters? It's all about who gets more likes, who gets more shares, who gets more views, right? More comments. So obviously, Demi Moore, right, in the movie, the real self, okay? So the Demi Moore signifies the real self. So it cannot process grief. You have to grieve the fact that you're losing youth, right? It cannot grieve. It's too painful to grieve, right? There's rage, where she starts removing her makeup in the mirror, right? She's raging against the fact that she's, aging, and that the fact that she can no longer be loved for who she is. And she's looking forward to the world to love her, but then she kind of like denies of that person who told her, hey, you're amazing, and I would like to go on a date with you. Remember, there was this guy in the movie. So she ignores that because now what society sees her is way more important than something real, that's something that could be real. Hey, I want to show you this scene, right? So in this scene here, where she's trying to like give me a better version of myself, please. And so what we can see is that the ideal self, well, okay, that goes later. This becomes like horrifying. It's just horrible. But anyway, what we see in the movie is the ideal self is pushing out the real self. There's very little of the real self, and now it's just the ideal self. It's a tyranny. the ideal self becomes a tyrant, right? It starts taking out the liquid of her spine. So I think from the spine to inject so she can stay in the ideal self. The ideal self can live for longer, for more, right? Be stronger, be brighter for longer. And it wants full control. And it's almost like the ideal self wants the real self erased. It's very interesting because I think we see that a lot in pop culture and celebrity, where they become so much of they live so much of their life from the ideal self that they're no longer where's real, where's the real, right? Where's the real? Like if you look at the Kardashian show, you can just see like fakeness. I think it's rather fake. It's very staged. There's nothing real. Right? Maybe one day their show used to be real, but it's no longer real. It's very staged. So anyway, in this movie, the ideal self takes over the real self, and it becomes a bully. And the bully starts dominating the real self, pushes out Demi Moore completely out of the picture. And real self, what you can see, what happens to the real self, is the real self becomes so damaged, right? She ends up, I think Demi Moore in that movie, she ends up, well, I think this is the end of the movie, but so here you can see that it becomes so damaged, right? It's so broken and run down. You know, in the end of the day, this whole battle between the real and the ideal self, it's not fiction. I know we see this movie as fiction, but it ain't fiction. It's the reality, guys. And I think that's partially why this movie has become so popular, right? So it's sort of like a quiet war that we live, that we fight every day. We look in the mirror, we look in the social media. It's an inner battle of every single human on this planet. And I feel like nowadays, ideal self is winning. We as humans, like I already explained to you, we are craving that ideal image because we have this, worthlessness about us, not being good enough. I am aware that, that there are people in therapy, people go to therapy, but mental health crisis is huge. No wonder why this whole personal development market is worth billions. It's worth billions because mental health issues are on the rise. This feeling of worthlessness and not being enough, it's something that every human goes through. Well, maybe every second, but I truly believe every human goes through that. The thing you can see, right, in this movie is that this ideal self is so neurotic, right? It's so neurotic. While the real self, the Demi Moore, you can feel that it's real, the pain is there, she's sad, she's upset, right? But this whole ideal self and ideal self business, right? This guy, it's extreme, it's demanding. And then in the ending, we see that the monster has been created because ideal self has taken over so like crazy that it turned into the monster. And it's a beautiful metaphor to the ideal self because it is monstrous, because it is demanding, because it is not human, because it is made out of some sort of fantasies, never achievable perfection, never achievable, the ideal in itself. It talks about the fact that ideal is really never really achievable. The life is not about being ideal. The life is about being real. Life is reality. Life is not, no matter how much you try to show your life to other people as it's perfect and amazing, it's not that. Who are you lying to? You're lying to yourself and to others. So a little bit about the ending, where she merges into this Hollywood star, right? In psychoanalytical terms, it's complete identification with the ideal ego. She no longer feels pain, she no longer feels shame, she becomes an object, and then she disappears. She no longer exists. See, she completely dissolves and disappears because there's no life. There is no life and there is no vitality in ideal self. Vitality and life is only in the real. It's what's real that lives and is the ideal that exists. Ideal exists. Ideal is an object. Real has soul, right? ideal does not have a soul in a way. It doesn't. And I feel like maybe this scene might have something to do with ego death, but I know like an ego death is usually sort of like when your ego dies and you identify with your real self. I think maybe what this actually signifies is death on its own, right? When we are so entangled with ideal self that our real self has completely died. And when our real self dies, we die. We die. It's an annihilation. I think I pronounce it right. It's non-existence. You know how I believe that soul, it goes on to living other lives, for example, but in this case, it's complete annihilation, like it's gone, completely gone, right? It's like you're gone. So she has idealized herself to death. I tried to make this video short. I realized I have other videos, guys, about, Taylor Swift. I think I've done it like for a whole hour. And so I'm kind of trying to keep this short. So I'm not going to add anything else. One last message I will add, however, is that look within yourself. Look within yourself. How do you feel? Do you live from your true self, or do you always try to be ideal? Are you accepting your real self? If not, therapy, guys. Therapy, therapy, therapy. This life is not meant to be lived from the ideal self. This life is meant to be experienced. It's meant to be lived in as imperfect as it is. Life is not perfect. It will never be. It's meant to be experienced in its imperfection. Imperfection is what makes us beautiful. Imperfection is what makes us unique, right? So try and think of your own ideal self. What does your ideal self look like? And see whether you live too much of your ideal self. I do see people living too much of their ideal self, where they are so concerned with the way they look. They edit their images too much on their social media. You can see that even when they speak. It's like Kim Kardashian speaking. You don't feel a soul. You don't feel a human. Like there's nothing human in it, right? Try and analyze the way you act and the way you are. And trust me, guys, the more detached you are from your real self and the more you try to strive for some kind of ideal, the less happy you will be. If you think that people who, have the beauty and, I highly doubt that, Kardashians are like the happiest people on this planet. I highly doubt it. Maybe I should do the whole Kardashian deconstruction next. But anyway, guys, well, thank you very much for watching, and leave your comments below, and I'll see you guys in another video. Bye-bye.